Hello and welcome to the Divorce to Bliss podcast. Here you will learn all things related to healing from divorce, mind, body, and spirit, so you can create a beautiful new life filled with happiness. I'm Rachel Ruby, author of Divorce to Bliss, divorce coach, speaker, and attorney, and I'm so glad you found me here. Hello and welcome to the Divorce to Bliss podcast. I'm Rachel Ruby, and our episode today is about healing from divorce through nature. Now, if you are a regular, either a listener or a viewer of this podcast, you know that I've talked a lot about using nature as a tool to help you heal because it is so grounding and amazing. And so I was so happy to find my guest. Her name is Alicia Frizzle, and she is a certified nature and forest therapy guide and life coach based in Chicago. And she helps individuals navigate life transitions and reconnect with their power through nature-based healing. This is so fantastic. After years as a commercial portfolio manager, she discovered firsthand how nature can anchor you through seasons of pressure and personal change. Today, through her company, Natura Heir, she leads evidence-based outdoor experiences that support emotional resilience, clarity, and nervous system restoration, using forest therapy as a practical, accessible modality for renewal. Through her work, Alicia helps clients move from overwhelm to self-trust and step forward with intention beyond life's hardest chapters. And divorce is definitely one of those. So we're going to talk about that today. Welcome to the podcast, Alicia.
And thank you so much for having me. I appreciate being here. Nature is my business and my passion.
I love it. I love it. So let's jump into that. So obviously, for those who don't know, what is forest therapy and why is it such a powerful game changer when people are going through a trauma like divorce?
So I'll give a little bit of history. So forest therapy, also known as forest bathing or Shinrin-yoku, began in Japan a few decades ago as a response to a national health crisis. And it is widely used now as a powerful tool for stress reduction and nervous system support. It's a guided, slow, intentional experience where I take participants out in nature to regulate the nervous system and reconnect you to yourself and to nature. And for women going through major life transitions, especially something like divorce, everything can feel overstimulating and destabilizing. And nature does the exact opposite. It slows you down, brings you into your body, back into the present moment, and grounds you, creating space to process without pressure. It becomes what I like to call the sacred place where you're not being asked to figure anything out. Nature just simply allows you to be, and that's where the real healing begins.
That's beautiful. Wow. How did you get into this?
So that part, I think I mentioned during our interview, it always get me kind of tangled up into my emotions real heavily in a beautiful way, because during the pandemic, I purchased a regular bicycle, and I started riding and said I want to start conquering trails. So it began on a quest on a bicycle of conquering the trails in my Chicagoland area. And afterwards, once the season passed for riding the bike, I decided to go double back and take all those trails on foot. And it was in that moment that I can feel the embrace of nature and unresolved issues that I had. For example, I lost 2 pregnancies, so I call them still my babies, and I have no living children, and there was some deep pain there. And I noticed how the more time I immersed out there, how more uplifted and light I began to feel and to understand that, even through moments of adversity or traumatizing experiences, that it's somehow looking at a tree just seeing it, touching it, hugging it. It's like it releases a lot of that pain off of you. And I knew in that moment, even through just connecting those dots, but taking steps away from my desk as a commercial portfolio manager, on how I was always able to regulate and come back to my task with renewed focus, renewed strength, and just ready to continue out the day without feeling so burnt out about it. And it was through all of both tying both of those things together and coming to that realization that nature was actually healing me, and not just healing me, but growing me. The things that I would witness, the metaphors, and I really don't call them metaphors. To me, they're lessons. You know, they were clear-cut lessons that I was learning through every moment that I spent as an individual out there. And so I came around a bend one day in the forest, and the clouds, I'll have to share a picture with you, but the clouds were bursting. They were kind of gray, and the sunlight was bursting through. And as I came around a bend, I was directly under that sunlight. And it was like the light was shining directly on me. And that's when I knew that I need to share this in a way that brings connecting people to nature in a way to receive the same healing benefits that I was receiving, the mental clarity that I was receiving, purpose that I received out there. Clearly, it established my purpose. And so I knew then that this is what I'm supposed to, who I am, what I'm supposed to do, and how to do what I'm supposed to do. And since then, I haven't looked back, and things have been moving forward, and taking all that I am into consideration. I began to create programs built around the immersion of forest therapy, so that people can maximize all that they can receive from it. And so everything that was in me, everything nature shared with me, that is how I became a certified nature and forest therapy guide. And it's been a blessing. Every journey I receive from it, as much as the participants do as well.
Wow. Okay. Two things from that. First of all, nature is so incredible. And it seems so simple to think about the fact that if you go out, like I live by the beach, and we have tons of trails out here in San Diego as well that go into the mountains and such. And I love nature no matter where I am, whether it's beach, forest, trails. But the feeling, just like you, that I get when I'm in nature and I'm truly focused, like phone off and just in nature, listening to the sounds of the birds, looking at the sky and the changing of the clouds, or just the breeze blowing the grass or the flowers, or on the beach, you know, you see the tides coming in and out, and the changing of the fog coming in or rolling out. And all of those things to me are also so healing and so grounding. And I love to go barefoot often when I walk on the beach, because just to feel my toes in the sand, it's like Mother Earth. And it just, yes. So although it sounds, if you think about it, sounds simple, I think so many people don't think when they're hurting about going out in nature. They just want to continue on their path. Like, let me get through this day at work. Let me get through getting the kids, picking them up from school, making dinner, or, you know, coming home, or whatever it is, and not really focusing and concentrating on that. And it's such a simple, it's free. It's free to go out in nature and experience that. And it is so beneficial. So thank you for sharing your story. I got chills when you were talking about the light coming and shining down. And I've seen that at the beach sometimes, where it's all gray and you just see these rays just shooting down onto the water. And there's this little pool of light, and it's like, whoa. Yes. So, and then the other thing I wanted to say is the fact that you took such a trauma of losing those babies and were able to heal yourself through nature, and then turn around to give that back, to pay it forward, is incredible. And I love speaking to women like you who do that, because, and I do the same thing. I, turned my trauma into this podcast, into coaching, helping women heal from divorce. And I love that, because you that's why we're here, right? We're here to be the best version of ourselves and to give back, pay back and help others. So thank you for sharing that story. I would love to talk about, let's get into the science behind forest therapy and how does it, you've mentioned it regulates the nervous system. How does it do this? And what does nature teach our minds about being present and being open so we can heal?
That's my favorite part of it all. So the real biology behind the forest and how it calms us is that the trees, the plants release this natural compound called phytoncides. And as we are going about our day, the trees are busy just releasing freely. And we're showered with those phytoncides. We inhale them, and they also enter through our skin, hence the term forest bathing. And so when it does enter into our systems, it lowers stress and activates our parasympathetic nervous system. And this is how we hit the reset and get the restoration. And then when you are near water, specifically a waterfall, there are negative air ions that are released into the atmosphere that boost the oxygen flow in our mood, that are even beneficial to us. There is soil bacteria that even supports the serotonin, So wow, it feels so peaceful and nothing's going on. There's actually so much happening in the world what we cannot see, even though we're existing in the same space with it, that it's aiding and healing our bodies. And the more that we go, the more we receive, the better we are. And one of the beauties about how our bodies receive and shifts the stress chemistry is that when we immerse, the impact, scientifically proven, can last up to 14 days. Just from one forest therapy immersion with me, the impact will linger with you for 14 days. So as nature teaches us presence, it teaches healing, and everything is happening in real time, which gently pulls us out of overthinking and back into our bodies, into the present moment. And that is how I would say that nature supports our minds about being present and about being open. Because it openly gives. And in some little small way, we're open without trying to be, because those phytoncides, they enter into us regardless. So our pores are open, even if we're not. So it's just good to get out there. If your mind says no, go anyway, because your pores are open to receive the healing effects that nature has to bring to us or offer to us.
Wow. It's nature's medicine. I mean, I never knew that. I feel it's almost like a movie where, the end product, you see it all perfect and edited, but there's so much that went on behind the scenes to make that happen. So I love the idea of being there and just nature's at work, and nature's at work to heal you, because if your, feel good hormones are being set in motion, or, your positive feelings or you're feeling more positive feelings. And because you're experiencing this beauty and you're inhaling these, what are they called?
Phytoncides.
Phytoncides. Yeah. Yes. I mean, that is incredible. So, wow. So let's talk about why is it important to have a guide when you do this forest bathing or you go out in nature, as opposed to just going yourself and going on some walks, going to the beach, going to the forest? How do people benefit from your assistance?
I'm glad you asked. Nature alone, it truly is a powerful tool. And that's something that I come across often is, there are nature lovers and people who are always outdoors. The fundamental difference is that when people are out there, most people stare in their heads. and in one way, rightfully so, because you have to situational awareness and making sure that you're safe, and sometimes when you're alone, you're paying attention to different noises that could distract you that are not nature sounds, but maybe sounds of a bike or something coming up behind you, or other footsteps, or whatever it is. It's just when you're alone, your situational awareness is a little bit more heightened. And so a guide creates the intention, safety, and depth, because there are sensory invitations, a particular sequence of cognitive behavioral therapy, along with other psychological tools that goes into how we curate the program to maximize the benefits that you're going to receive from nature, and how to interact with it in a way that you get the most from it. And it also helps you to slow down for the intentional pauses, because usually when you're out, most people are out in nature, there's movement. It's running, hiking, biking, all of which are fine. I do all of the above myself regularly, but I also make sure that I too, in my own individual journeys, take those intentional pauses, and doing that is how I am even more aware of how our level of awareness and how we can interact with nature shifts when we're alone. Because when I'm alone, that I'm heightened in a way of looking over my shoulder, just to make sure that maybe if I'm not thinking I'm under attack, but just, that I'm not in the way of a mountain biker coming, because you share the trails, even with horses for that matter. So it's about, the safety, the intention, the guided invitation, the science behind the sequence, and holding the emotional container, so that anything that comes up, a guide is there to support you in whatever that is and whatever it looks like. And that's what turns nature into more than just healing, but also into transformation, is with a guide versus doing it alone.
That completely makes sense, because like you said, and not only the fact that you are constantly aware of bikers or animals or stuff that might be going on, but also, like you said, sometimes it's really hard to get out of your head. And if you're going through something traumatic like divorce, sometimes you can't turn it off, right? And it's just constantly. Yes. And so having a guide like you, obviously, to keep focus on what on being in the nature, will help. and sometimes, when you are going through something hard, you think you can do it by yourself. But I always say, get some help, because there's so many, even when if you go out in nature, the things that you aren't aware of, like things that Alicia's already told us about what happens in nature behind the scenes. And you probably weren't aware of that. I certainly was not, but it's great to have someone help you and hold your hand through it. And I think you'll get much more of a benefit from that.
Yes. So. That kind of makes me, the way you said that about not doing it alone. Sometimes you think you could do it alone. Is that everything in nature works together. Everything supports each other. And so, it's a sure reminder, like you have the mother trees, the more mature, most people call them the mature trees. So the mother trees, they feed the saplings to help them grow. And when they're in a weakened state, they aid them to help them so that they are strengthened and so that they can continue to grow in resilience and become the best version or tree that they can be. And that is a reminder for humanity that, when someone is, in a deficit, I don't want to, use it. The trauma is, so deficit could be trauma or divorce, or like I experienced the pregnancy losses, is that those deficits can be nourished through community and having someone there to help you navigate through those journeys. And it's always something that I find myself reminding not reminding, but hearing a lot from others is about how having that community on those journeys and being able to, a lot of my prompts in my programs, they're very intentional prompts that I sit down and I study and come up with. And just even like a prompt from a client mentioning having someone to ask her that because she wasn't able to clear her headspace to ask that question herself and how it really impacted her. So community and having that help is everything.
That sounds so amazing. And I love that comparison of the mother trees nourishing the saplings so they can survive and comparing that to humanity. And yes, it sounds like your journeys are incredible. Do you have a maybe specific story that you can share with us about like a profound transformation that you may have witnessed in someone from going on one of these expeditions with you and through nature?
Yes, I do. If you don't mind, I like to share two, but I'll keep them very short.
Go ahead.
So one journey, I have a contract with this organization where we do these journeys once a month. And it was a young lady that was participating on these journeys. And I believe it was the second journey. She spoke up about the first journey. I guess, she felt more comfortable to share it in the group setting. And so she had told me that on the very first journey that her mind was just pretty much like in a bunch of different spaces, and there was a lot of noise happening, and she was unable to bring herself into the moment and bring calm. And then once she was on the journey with me, there were the trees and the leaves, the wind. It was a very subtle wind because mostly you couldn't feel it. And the only identity of the wind, which was so funny, was that some leaves were blowing and then some were not. And I noticed it, but I did not get the same revelation she received. And that's so amazing about nature. It gives these revelations. And so there was one tree that she witnessed. Some leaves were blowing, some leaves were not, but they were on the same branch. And she said it made her think of her mind. And a lot of her thoughts are chaotic. So she made comparison of the leaves to her thoughts. So the branch was her mind and the leaves, and then there was some calm. And she said how she focused on the leaves that were moving, and that's how in her mind she was more focused on those thoughts that were so intense and it felt they were urgent and just chaotic, and everything just had to happen now, or everything just seemed so grim. And if this doesn't happen, if that doesn't happen, what if this, what if that, and this didn't work, that didn't work, who am I, what is this? And these are her words, I'm just repeating them. And she said those were the moving leaves, and that her mind was in that state. And then she realized hey, if these leaves are moving and these leaves are not, then I have the power to stabilize my mind too. And then she said she followed the branch, which was in her. To her, the branch was her mind, the tree was her body. And that she said that everything was sourced was happening through the body and how it was all connected. And that if she could get into a root and back into her body, which the journey that she was on with me, that's what it did do. That was the journey. The journey is bringing you back into your body. And so she was able to connect all of those things without ever my explanation of, like how we're talking through it now. I'm not so sure that maybe she had that prior to arriving, but it was beautiful to watch her trace it all the way back and get the fullness of forest. I'm about to cry. I'm sorry. To get the fullness of forest therapy. And the impact that it has on me to witness the benefit that it brings to people. It's a sure reminder of why I do what I do.
That
I thought I was
woman,
gonna make it through this without that.
no, it's okay. That woman had an awakening moment at that time. Her ability to recognize that is, wow, that story really touches me. I have the chills. That is amazing, because a lot of times people who go through healing after a trauma like divorce, it takes a while to have any kind of epiphany or awakening moment like that. And wow, that must have made you just feel so incredibly proud to do what you do. Yeah,
it did. It really did. And so that happened on journey 1, but she was telling me on journey number 2. And so she continuously, participate. She was very repetitive, getting everything. And obviously, the more you do it, the better you are. And so that, you can become, rather, the more healing that takes place inside of you. So, it's not like while you'll receive a lot in one journey, nothing is a quick fix, in life. So the more you do it, the greater impact that it can have on your life and, you as the person. And the second journey is a special curated program. And I call it the breakthrough experience. And a young lady took that journey, and with her, there was a lot happening with, she was in one of those seasons of life I think we all can relate to, where it feels like everything is happening back to back to back to back to back to back. It's like you can't come up for air. It's just like one problem surfacing after another. And for her, they were all like big issues, where it was, death and so much more. Just everything was, I can categorize it as life altering things. And so she signed up for my breakthrough experience, even though she had never heard of this before. She's never taken she had never heard of forced therapy before. And so she was very curious about the journey, even after, we had our consultation, and I explained it to her, but she still had a lot of curiosities. And so being there, she opened up to receive and go through the prompts. And the breakthrough experience is primarily all introspection, where I create these prompts and guide you through self-discovery through every prompt. So it's more, I'm asking the question, and a lot of journaling happens. And so she, 2 weeks later, she calls me back, and she had tipped me that day. But then 2 weeks later, she called me back and tipped me again and said that the prompts not only were some, like, they were so deep and beyond the surface, and caused her to dig into spaces and come into realizations and even into acceptances in ways that she would not have managed on her own. And that she received a revelation on 2 areas of her life, and that she had implemented them prior to calling me, and the results that she received from them, and how much peace and sleep, just going to sleep, that she has been able to accomplish since after that journey. And it was just, that was beautiful for me as well, because hearing everything that she shared with me, and then having that second conversation, that follow-up conversation, it was just such night and day. And everything that she was dealing with was current. And to hear her speak in such a more light, featherless way was so profound and beautiful for me. That's why I wanted to share those both.
Wow, that's another wonderful story. And just you really have seen some transformations. I'm sure there are many more. So that is, if I could give you a hug, I'd give you a hug right now, because you're doing an incredible job. Yeah.
Thank you.
So tell me, you mentioned that you had when we first met, that you had a program specifically for women going through divorce. So can you tell us a little bit about that program?
Yes, I do. I love the name of it. I hope you guys like it. It's called Root and Rise. That is the name of it. And so I created Root and Rise, this forced therapy experience for women that are walking through divorce or finding themselves on the other side of it. Because I've seen how disheartening and just how disorienting that season can be. And I've seen women go through survival mode. I've seen women go through grief, anger, and underneath it all, that question pops up of, who am I now? Or where do I go from here? And while I haven't personally gone through divorce, I'm getting emotional again. I have stood very close to some loved ones who have, and I've supported them through their journeys. And I watched them question and even some experiencing identity loss.
Yeah.
And the boundary shiftings and just the slow return of self. And I watched them hold on to their sanity and their softness and their inner power and just thrive still to this day, even after, going through all of that. And I'm grateful that I was able to hold their hand and help them navigate that space of tuning into themselves, because ultimately that's the help that I offered them, because we can't control other people. Mm-hmm. We can't control narratives and outcomes, but what we can control is how we show up. We can control the environments of our minds. We can control and grab a hold of our emotions, no matter how difficult it feels in the moment. And no matter how strong the contrary feelings feel and how intense they are. Because sometimes they can be so magnified that we're blinded by our truths, which is why I say to root again. Because root and rise, it's truly not about fixing anything. It is not about forcing a healing. It is creating space for the pause, for the release, and most importantly, for the reminder of who you are in a space that's safe, intentional, and helps you reconnect in a way that is authentic and real. Because the trauma, I think I may have said it already, is very disorienting, and it disorients truth of who you are as the person. And that's trauma itself, and divorce falls into the category of it. And through that lens and understanding of my traumas, that I have been able to navigate to the other side of them, is how I was able to assist my loved ones. And unfortunately, it's I guess today is an emotional day for me. It's too many to count. And that divorce rate is pretty high. And, I just, I don't know. I feel the need to say this. I remember when we were younger and everyone's getting married, we're all excited and buying bridesmaids dresses and, and going to the weddings and celebrating and, these new lives and everything, identities, even shifting, because marriage is an identity shift. I know it definitely was for me and the community around me of women who we are all in this space of all of us ended up, got married. And we were like, whoa, like everybody, all of us, we're all excited and we're celebrating this, and then now today's date, it's only 3 of us that are still married.
Mm.
And so, that's the part that I felt the need to say is that, because that's another layer that I have thought about and taken into consideration of having your friends that are going through divorce and divorced, and then still being friends with married friends that, got married, primarily maybe around the same time or, within a year or 2 behind each other or in front of each other. And I took that into account that, how that impacts the woman, my friends that went through a divorce, and being mindful of that in my conversations and even me shifting a bit to meet them where they are at the time, until they can get back to themselves and their truths, And so that's where Root and Rise, is born through what my friends and my community of women around me that are loved ones that, I help navigate and taking those tools that help them get to the other side. And in fact, just go through it and get to the other side of it. And also the other layer of that emotional impact that it has to still be friends with, women who are still in marriages that appear to be thriving and how that could make you feel. And so that's also integrated into the program. So again, it's not about fixing or forcing a healing. It's about turning back into your body, remembering who you are beneath the rose, beneath the pain and all of the expectations. Because in nature, the unraveling, it is honored and it becomes the beginning of something that's grounded, clear, and fully your own. And I like to say that for this particular program alone is that I do not help women move on. I help them return to who they are, to their roots, and rise through that authentically, because that is what is sustainable. And that is what helps you thrive for the next chapter in your life, whatever that looks like.
Wow. Oh gosh. Okay. First of all, it's interesting. I had this thought while you were talking that nature does not judge. There's no judgment in nature, right? And so I think maybe that's one of the reasons why it is such a safe and welcoming, I think of like mama's bosom, place to be called into. And you brought up everything you said is just so spot on. And you brought up the point about celebrating the marriages back then when everyone was getting married. And I remember that point. I remember all my friends getting married. I was in so many weddings and then my wedding and, never thought I'm going to be divorced one day. In fact, my former spouse and I would go to some of these weddings and say, oh, wow, I wonder how long it's going to last, because we knew that the couples had issues, but we did not. And so the interesting thing is that we don't, in this country, we don't celebrate divorce. In fact, completely the opposite. Divorce has been associated with so much shame and negativity, and no one teaches us how to get through a divorce. We know when we're children and we're growing up that, the goal is that you go through life and you find a career and you get married and you have a family and you stay married and
buy a house.
Yeah. And through society, religion, culture, and family values, there is much shame put upon the circumstance of divorce. And so things are changing a little bit in the world. I've talked about conscious uncoupling and things like that, where they really do focus on divorce as a growth journey instead of just a tearing apart And they include, if there are children, they include children in the whole thing, where they have a ceremony where they remove, the rings, and the children know that mommy and daddy, or, whether it's two mothers or two fathers, whatever, they know that the parents are going to be okay, because they will love and support each other moving forward. And it's kind of an agreement to do that. It's not this thing that maybe starts out as friendly, where we just, don't love each other anymore, and becomes very contentious once the lawyers come in, and the fighting and the splitting of assets, and all of those things. So I love the idea of nature being non-judgmental and being a tool that you can really use, like those two women that had those awakenings from just being in nature and just experiencing what's going on around them, and opening the heart, because really the journey through divorce is all about opening your heart. And a lot of us, I know I did, we just close it. It just gets like this when we're going through it, or we're thinking about it, because there's so much negativity associated with it. And like I said, shame and fear. Fear is huge in this realm. And so to be able to go out in nature with no expectations and no judgment, and be guided through this, letting this beauty just envelop you and sink into you, is such an incredible experience. So I am so glad that we met each other, and that you do this. And I know, because you're based in Chicago, I'm on the West Coast. So if there are people who want to experience these journeys that you offer, and maybe they can't come out there, you said that you do some online programs. Is that correct?
I do. So they are virtual, almost like a FaceTime.
Okay.
Except you don't have to stay on camera if you do not want to. And you can just really block your camera off. And primarily, I guide you through the journey from the sound of my voice. And take you through every sensory invitation, where you're able to connect with nature to receive the maximum benefits that it has to offer you through the program journey that I've curated.
Wonderful.
So you can do it in person. I can come to you if you have a group. If there's a group, it's just more cost effective to have a group. I definitely travel out of state, and have traveled out of state on several occasions to service different organizations. And so I can also travel to you in addition to you traveling to me, or virtual.
Wow, that's wonderful. So really, if you are listening to this and you're thinking, wow, I really want to try this. This sounds amazing, because it sounds amazing to me. I want to try it. a guided immersion. I love it. So if you're thinking about that, we will have all of the links for you to reach Alicia and her company, and check out her offerings at the end of the podcast. And I highly suggest that if you are considering this, that you do find a way to do it in person, because I think, even though it's wonderful that you offer these virtual tours through nature, virtual immersion, there's something to be said about actually being there and experiencing it live. So, yeah. And if people want to put together a group, and they want my help, I'm more than happy to help with that. So just reach out to me or to Alicia, either one of us, to put together a group for Alicia for an immersion. And I don't know if there's anything else you want to add. You have been a plethora of information, and this is such a phenomenal healing tool.
I think like the most, I guess the one thing, if anything, that I would like for someone to take away is just to remember that, nature, we are one with nature, and all things about nature is to our benefit, and to support her as much as she supports us. And I was wondering if I wanted to share this poem, but if I have the time, can I share a poem?
Sure,
that I wrote?
Ahead. Yes,
and
yes, that you wrote. Oh my goodness, yes, please share.
Yes, and I think this may be the best way to close it out. In nature's arms, I find my peace, a gentle balm where worries cease. Beneath the skies, so vast and free, nature's care nurtures me. With each return, my spirit mends. Amongst the trees, my soul ascends. The rustling leaves, the whispering breeze, they chase away stress and anxieties. I lay my troubles on the ground in nature's lap where calm is found. With every step on the forest floor, my heart feels light, my mind restored. But nature's gift I must repay to guard its grace in every way. For as nature heals and makes me whole, so must I tend its gentle soul. Together, we're in harmony, a sacred bond eternally. To care for nature as it does for me, in nature's love, we're forever free. Thank you.
Wow. That is, again, you've given me chills so many times today in this discussion with you. That is a phenomenally beautiful, poignant poem. You are so talented. And you almost made me cry just now. Thank you for sharing that. That is just so beautiful. And wow, you need to publish that poem. That is just absolutely incredible.
Thank you,
Alicia. Thank you for being here with me today. This has been, I think, one of the most amazing episodes because it is just, there's so much truth in it. And like I said, so many people just don't realize nature's all around us. We have to protect nature. Like you said, we have to take care of her like she takes care of us. And that's a whole other conversation, right? What people are doing to nature. We won't go there. We're going to keep it all happy. But thank you for being here today. I truly, truly honor and appreciate you and your work and what you're doing. And I will refer people your way every time that I can, because I think that you are doing the work of the universe. And thank you for being here with me today.
I really appreciate it. Thank you.
If you are a woman healing from divorce and you are having all these emotions, please know that this is a safe space for you to come and feel like you are supported. I love finding guests like Alicia who can come here and share these tools and these therapies with you so that you can really heal and discover the new you, not the new you, but the better version of you after divorce, so you can become this best and highest version. So please do me the honor of sharing, subscribing, liking, commenting on this and any other podcast if it moves you. I really appreciate you being here. Thank you so much.